Welcome back. It's great to have you on the program. You're watching the AM Report. I'm Ayanda Nyati. So French President Emmaunel Macron arrives in South Africa on a state visit later today. This follows the the leader's visit to Rwanda, beg your pardon, where he's acknowledged his country could have done more to prevent the 1994 genocide that killed 800,000, mostly Tutsi people. His statement is the closest to an apology by a French president and was hailed by Rwandan President Paul Kagame. And now Macron's visit comes weeks after he hosted a special summit in Paris to provide financial support to African countries that have been devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Some context, South Africa is France's largest trading partner on the continent, and discussions between the two countries are expected to focus on a variety of things, including strengthening bilateral relations. So what do we as ordinary South Africans make of this? Let's get you some perspective. Adv Sipho Mantula is researcher at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. He joins us now via our video link on the significance of this visit. And Advocate Mantula, firstly, great to see you. Thanks for making time for us. It's difficult not to read the French president's meeting with our president outside of his previous stop on the continent, which was in Rwanda, where he made some pretty noteworthy admissions about French's supposed lack of involvement in trying to curb the Rwandan genocide. How do you think that places him as he meets with President Cyril Ramaphosa later today?
And refreshing morning, Jumbo Africa, to the viewers. I think the way you have said this significant visit comes in the wake of what you have said of the Paris summit that was held 2 weeks ago. And he did promise in that Paris summit that he will be coming to Rwanda, South Africa. For us, again, you must understand that as you were earlier talking about vaccine rollout, France was interested by the role South Africa has played in the AU chairpersonship last year, and the issues that South Africa and India have been pursuing on the issues of the intellectual property rights on the vaccine manufacturing. Now, this visit is critical because, as you have said, it has started in 2017 when he came into power, Emmanuel. He went to West Africa, he came to East, and only now he visited Rwanda, which, as we have said, a very shady statement that yesterday many of critics were expecting an apology, but actually he turned the coin and saying that it's only those who are part of the past that they can provide forgiveness. And I think, secondly, the visit to South Africa come on the wake of what you have just said again, the Cabo Delgado insurgents summit of yesterday, that again we see a sense of no agency from the SADC leaders. France met actually with Mozambique in that summit on the same issue. So we do expect him to engage with South Africa beyond economics. They will look even into issues of conflict resolution. They will have to look even on issues of cultural exchange, because I think since being Africa Month, France has been critical on the repatriation of stolen cultural goods.
Let me pick your brain a bit more on the meeting that Macron had with his Rwandan counterpart in just a moment. I mean, the sense I'm getting from you is that he didn't go far enough in his acknowledgement of France's role or lack thereof in the Rwandan genocide, despite the praise he's getting, allegedly also from the Rwandan president himself.
Correct, but let's take viewers back to 2010. Nicolas Sarkozy tried to mend this relation, and if you understand, presidential visits are all about to amplify the foreign policy of the member state. Sarkozy went, nothing came through. Now others are saying he's trying to turn the page of history for reconciliation, when others will have said, but where is justice, where is reparation? You can pursue reconciliation, you can visit the Kigali Museum, but what is critical is that the survivors and the victims of Rwanda genocide are still having their pain. And if you can look the language of the report on the genocide, which was issued in March this year, it was critical, saying even if France was involved, it was not complicit to the genocide. But some of us, we know very well, there was UN Security Council secret meetings that were going on that France was leading when people were dying in Rwanda. So there is no need to come in and where one historian have said, it's time that Europe must stop explaining to us what has happened. They must listen to us, what they have done to our continent.
That considered, we expect the bilateral relations to mean something in the meeting that's later meant to take place between Cyril Ramaphosa and Emmaunel Macron. For one, we know that South Africa is France's biggest trading partner on the continent. In turn, France is South Africa's second biggest trading partner within the EU. Those dynamics at play, do you expect anything material to come out of today's engagement?
I know definitely, but even if you have the bilateral investment, how does it benefit small entrepreneurship? How does it benefit the youth? Because France is pushing the issue that Africa has got a youthful population. Now, there will be no need when France is coming to inject another 5 billion for COVID, and we get the COVID scandal gate once more. The issues even around cultural exchange program. France has been critical on cultural events or what you call cultural relations. I think South Africa has not done very well. We have commodified, commercialized our own cultural creative economy. But France, again, must be mindful that it doesn't come as a proxy. As you know, China and Russia, they've got interest in the SADC region. South Africa is playing that buffer zone. So it's critical, like I said, you can have tried bilateral research, health issues, but how does it benefit ordinary people in this country? And how do we mend our relation with France on the issues that will be on the COVID vaccine manufacturing? Because I think that's where the world is moving. That's where Africa is moving, that let's produce our own vaccine. And even beyond vaccine, let us even engage on the issues of historical crimes that, like I have said, France has got appetite in Chad. France has got appetite in Mali. So we must be worried that even when we engage economically, what is France's interest in the continent?
Absolutely. And I wonder, with those tough conversations having to take place, whether we have enough reason to believe that it's Cyril Ramaphosa who will have them. What's your take?
You know, I think for us to host them, remember that President Ramaphosa, when he was in Paris, he's the one who have extended that invitation as well to further engage, because bilaterals in Paris were not enough. So I think for us, President Ramaphosa is to emphasize on our African Agenda 2063, our NDP, and at the same time to deal with the insurgency that is facing Africa, because France play a key role in West Africa. But again, France is coming on the back foot of this Paris summit that was dealing with the Sudan crisis, and we still have the Tigray crisis. We still have the Nile River conflict. So these are the issues that I think President Ramaphosa must emphasize, and at the same time, even the issues of corruption by member states. I think that's one thing we are not. We are shy to engage on the issues of the COVID-19 scandals that have been happening globally, to say how do we deal with governance issues on that area.
Absolutely. What comes to mind now is that saying that there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Even if we do concede to whatever help we do get as a result of these bilateral relations, I imagine top of mind should be at what cost? Should a country like ours even entertain something like taking on more debt from a country like France, given the dynamics at play that you've just outlined?
And we have been exposed to become a beggar, even if we have been exploited for many years. But understand one thing that is critical. Like you have said, there is no free breakfast this morning when they are engaging. The issue is for us to push equality, is to push our foreign policy views on how do we look at the global sphere on the issues that are challenging humanity. And like I can tell you, what is critical, it is for us not to be into a debt. We are still having a debt of IMF and World Bank, but France is critical. It gave Sudan a blanket amnesty or an aid to deal with IMF. France is bringing a knowledge which we know and which some of us we think it is flawed. What they call special drawing rights. Special drawing rights is that IMF has got some reserves that they wanted to give Africa a certain amount, and France is not happy about that. It wants the money to go up, which is for us to stick with our African foreign policy paradigm, that it is all about humanity, it is all about better Africa and better world and better South Africa.
Sobering reflections around the song and dance of the French president being on the continent. Thanks very much indeed for your insights. Really appreciate it. Advocate Sipho Mantula is, of course, an analyst on the continent. It also happens to be a researcher at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. Once again, Advocate, thanks very much indeed.